Alright, fine, let's talk about this. As the title suggests, let's talk about tourists. I recently saw a video from the Anime Man about this, about how it's a thing in the anime community, but while I was watching it, I constantly saw parallels to what he was saying and the sort of things that I'd been seeing in the gacha community too. So I wanted to make this video with his video in mind to just show you those parallels that stood out to me. First of all, if you're not familiar with what I mean by tourists, then congratulations, you're one of the lucky few. But I'm not talking about tourists that you might see around Buckingham Palace or Niagara Falls or the Great Wall of China taking selfies or something like that. I'm talking about the tourists specifically in the subculture sense of the word. People who have heard about a popular title like Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, Uma Musume, and thought that they'd like to see what it's like, and they're looking at them from a surface but not really understanding the history or context of these games. And these kinds of tourists are present in many different niches, not just gacha games, but things like I mentioned earlier, anime, cosplay, movies, music, etc. And today I want to talk about the tourists of one particular subculture which I happen to have been a part of since its inception here in Japan, gacha gaming. Tourists were always a thing. I don't think there's ever been a time that there hasn't been a certain amount of these kinds of people around, but as many others before me have mentioned, there has been an explosion of interest in gacha games in the past 5 years, brought about ever since COVID forced everyone indoors. And while stuck inside, people were understandably bored. People looked to different things to keep themselves occupied. Some got into anime, some got into art or music, basically anything that they could do indoors. And then in the summer of 2020, there were whispers of a new free-to-play game that was of equal quality to something from Nintendo, so much so that it was being called Breath of the Waifu. I am, of course, talking about Genshin Impact. Before this, most normies would never have even thought about picking up a gacha game. Like a game that's dependent on loot boxes for the characters? Ugh. But because of the severe circumstances that we were in at the time, many people gave it a shot. They liked it and they recommended it to their friends who recommended it to their friends and so on and so forth, until by the end of it we had a new generation of gacha gamers. And I say gacha gamers in quotes because these people very much consider themselves so, and why wouldn't they? They've been playing this game for 5 years at this point, the most popular gacha game around the world in fact. They've even played other gacha games like Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, and maybe even Wuthering Waves. 5 years is a long time after all. Of course, anyone would be an expert with that much time in any given field, right? These are what I would like to call gacha game tourists. Like I said, these people were always there, but since the COVID pandemic, and especially with the blow up of things like TikTok, there has definitely been an equal blow up of gacha game tourists in the space. A lot of people think that this whole gacha tourism thing only really started recently, like a couple of years ago or something, but no, this problem has been around for quite a while now, speaking about the otaku community in general, of which gacha games tend to be a part. I agree with Joey and many others out there that these subculture tourists can be a problem, but the thing is, they're like Thanos in that they are also an inevitability. Compared to anime, gacha gaming is still a relatively new subculture. Comparatively, it's still in its infancy. I arrived here in Japan in September of 2009, and the first game recognized as being an actual gacha game is Dragon Collection, that was released in September of 2010, and while it was a moderate success, it didn't really get all that much attention. At the time, Kaito Royale was the big thing that everyone was playing. The first gacha game that got significant traction was Puzzle and Dragons in February of 2012. I still remember riding the train to and from work and seeing everyone with phones in hand swiping the balls around to make chains of colors and such. I remember downloading the game for myself on my Galaxy S3, and even though I don't remember the first monster I pulled, I played the game because it was an easy way to pass the time on my commute, and the game itself was pretty addicting. Then there was Monster Strike in October of 2013, and holy shit. I thought Puzzle and Dragons was big, but Monster Strike made them look like peanuts in comparison. To this day, Monster Strike still holds the record for being the single highest grossing gacha game of all time. But still, despite all this hype and what seemed like everyone playing this game, there wasn't really an online gacha game community. Sure, you could try and find something on 2chan, but the less said about that place, the better. My point is, though, that even though these games were getting a huge amount of attention in Japan, there was still literally nothing outside of Japan. Because of course there wasn't. These games weren't in any other language other than Japanese, and the number of Japanese fluent people interested in gacha living outside of Japan was very limited at the time, to say the least. Back then, finding any kind of community outside of Japan for things like this, like anime, manga, Vocaloids, gacha games, etc., was somewhat difficult. Movies were a bit of a different story. Things like Battle Royale, The Grudge, and Ghibli movies were okay, and you wouldn't really get bullied for liking them. Joey is right that it wasn't until around the mid-2010s that the stigma of liking these kinds of things started to fade away. And also, like Joey, I was shocked when throughout the COVID pandemic, those same people that I know for a fact would be the same kids that bullied me at school for liking this stuff started turning around and saying things like, you know what, Goku is actually kind of a badass. And before, for gaming, when it was loot boxes, blech, to now where it's 50-50 chance at 90 pity, hey, that's pretty good. Now, just like anime, you don't get bullied for liking gacha, you get bullied for liking the wrong gacha. You guys really don't realize how good you have it right now, and yes, I do realize I am sounding like the biggest unk ever, but putting that aside, while gacha has gained a lot more popularity in recent years, it still has a ways to go before it's even considered mainstream. Again, outside of Japan, that is. The closest thing that I could consider to being mainstream is, as I mentioned, Genshin Impact, and then that might only be because of the COVID pandemic keeping everybody inside for years and years, bored out of their minds to the point where they're like, alright, fine, let me give this Chinese Zelda ripoff thing a try, and then end up enjoying it. Its availability on mobile made it even more accessible than if it was just for PC too. Pretty much everyone had a phone, and while there were plenty of bugs on launch, Genshin was able to be played on a lot of devices, opening itself up to create a lot of gacha fans in the meanwhile. Or rather, should I say more specifically, Genshin fans, because while these people might not be tourists when it comes to Genshin or even Wuthering Waves or any of the newer games that they're playing right now, they might be sweaty experts who know the ins and outs of these games better than some of the developers actually working on the game itself. But in saying that, they are still very much gacha game tourists. So how can gacha tourism or a gacha game tourist be a problem? Well, it's a problem for a number of reasons, and I think the biggest one may have to do with the perspectives of those who have been in the gacha community, the online gacha community, for as long as it's been around. One of the biggest problems that comes with tourists like this is that they don't understand the history but feel a sense of authority, or rather entitlement, to declare what should and shouldn't happen in the gacha community. This is the biggest problem I think most people have with tourists. Them telling other people what they should and shouldn't do, or what they can and can't like in a space that they fundamentally do not understand. Here's the thing though, and this will probably get a lot of certain people riled up. While there are possible problems that might happen with some tourists, I don't think being a gacha tourist is necessarily a bad thing. Everyone was a tourist at some point or another. Anyone angry with these people just existing is just being unreasonable. It's like saying I hate children, but adults are okay, despite the fact that all adults were children at some point in their life. Tourists in the otaku community have always been a thing, but as Joy pointed out, we didn't call them tourists at the time, we called them weeaboos. I remember back in 2009 there was this video that went viral both in and out of the otaku circles. It was an ad for SakuraCon 2009, and if you're around at the time you know exactly which video I'm talking about. The people outside of the otaku community were laughing at it because this is how they saw weeaboos, who they defined as anyone that was into the otaku stuff, and us inside the otaku community were laughing at it because it was like a caricature of what people thought of us, and we thought it was equally shallow and hilarious because at the same time we knew someone who did in fact live up to that caricature, i.e. someone that you might call a tourist by today's definition. But even us in the small otaku community that there was at the time used the word weeaboo to refer to these people who watched those few seasons of Naruto or Death Note and bought themselves a headband and claimed to love anime and Japan so much to the point where they think, hang on, I'll let Joey say this because he really did say it best.
What is a weeaboo? A weeaboo is essentially just somebody who is non-Japanese who loves anime so much to the point where they think they understand everything about Japan and Japanese culture and Japanese subculture, but in reality they are completely misguided and base all of their information off of fictional Japanese cartoons. And they create their entire personality around that so that they could fit in with a niche and fit in with who they think they actually are. It kind of sounds like an anime tourist.
So weeaboo became a word that had two different meanings. One for those that was used outside of the otaku community to refer to anyone that they saw as an otaku, and one that was used inside the otaku community to refer to anyone who only had a superficial understanding and appreciation for some aspects of otaku culture. The same thing is still happening to this day, where people play a few gacha games for a few years and think they have a better understanding of the genre and, by extension, the culture of Japan and the Japanese people that have started it. They isolate themselves to one particular corner of whatever niche they're in and think that they are the true fans of that niche as a whole. Maybe they've only played games like Nikke or Snowbreak with their gratuitous fan service. They only play games like these and come away with the opinion that that's what gacha is. Only female characters dressed in skimpy outfits designed for male players to goon over. Or maybe they've only played Genshin Impact and other Hoyo games and think that all gacha must have a 50-50 system with 90 pity and RNG substats. They believe that their thoughts and opinions based on an extremely limited exposure to the genre are accurately representative of the genre as a whole, which makes these kinds of people, ironically, some of the biggest tourists, you know? Using the word tourist as it is, it's like someone coming to Japan, visiting Tokyo, and spending most of their time in places like Akihabara, Shinjuku, and Odaiba, and maybe they're in time for comic market and see the vast number of people there, then thinking, yeah, this is what Japan is. This is what Japan is all about. It's essentially the same thing. These people surround themselves in a very limited, very specific part of the culture, in this case, gacha gaming culture, and they don't understand the history or context. They take a very superficial view of some games and apply what they see to say that, yep, this is it. This is what gacha is. And if you disagree, then you are a tourist. There is, however, a difference between weeaboo and a tourist, and I really like the distinction that Joey gave. A weeaboo just enjoys whatever it is that they enjoy, even if it is at a superficial level. But a tourist thinks that their opinion is more correct than anybody else. As I mentioned before, most of these gacha tourists started playing gacha over the pandemic and have only really experienced the past 5 years of gacha, if that. And gacha, just like anime, has certainly changed a lot in that time. Before, we were happy with the cheap PNG sprites bobbing up and down on screen, and now we have in-game rendered animations that could be cut together and packaged as a quality movie or something. And in that time, there have been a plethora of new gacha games that have been released to carve out their own specific niche in this already small niche in the wider gaming community. Games focusing solely on female characters or only on male characters, idle games, rhythm games, RPGs, third-person shooters, first-person dating sims, etc. It's not just the different types of gacha games that are out there that has changed, but the quality has seen a significant increase. These people have seen some games go more towards a certain theme or demographic and have determined that, yep, that's it. That's what gacha is. And anything that falls outside of that scope of how they think gacha is or how they think gacha should be is deemed as wrong or incorrect. And by extension, anyone who disagrees with them is a tourist. I've used this analogy before and it was weird to hear someone else use it, but it really is like listening to a rock band and thinking that all music needs to sound like rock music for it to constitute as music, or even that rock bands themselves have to sound a certain way to be considered rock, which is ridiculous on its face. They don't understand that not only has gacha evolved over the past 10 to 15 years, but it's continuing to evolve to this day. As I said earlier in the video, gacha games are still relatively in their infancy as a genre. To continue the analogy, it's like someone listening to a few rap songs and coming to the conclusion that all rap has to talk about gangs or drugs or whatever, while not understanding the history or culture of rap music. And yes, I do realize the irony of someone that looks like me talking about the history and culture of rap music is hilarious, but that's exactly my point. I know who I am. I know what I know and what I don't know. I enjoy rap music a lot, but I would never say that rap has to do this or that, because I've seen a wide range of artists rap about a wide range of topics in a wide range of different ways. The same is for gacha and people in the gacha community too. Joey mentioned something that he heard about a Columbus era of anime, to which he means about how Christopher Columbus, who went to the Americas and claimed it for himself, even though there were already people living there. The same thing can be said here, where there's an effort by some online that want to lay claim to gacha games as a whole, as though gacha games are their thing and their thing alone. You might have seen some of these comments around, where if someone expresses interest in a certain character or a certain ship, these people will jump in with comments like, "Get lost, vermin, you aren't welcome here." And to be specific about something that I've seen happening in the Wuthering Waves community with the upcoming character of Chu Yuan, I've seen some people getting attacked for just saying that they're excited to pull for him, or that they want to skip Galbraith and pull for him instead. Just the other day, there was a post by Ancient on Twitter talking about how Kuru Games designs fantastic male characters and asking for them to make more, only to have a bunch of people in the replies and quote retweets saying all kinds of disgusting things and that Ancient doesn't belong in gacha at all. They'll say the same thing to me, someone who has been playing gacha games in Japan since they were even a thing, someone deep in the culture of Japan, both normie and otaku alike. I'll give example after example of diverse player demographics, the success of male characters in other gacha games, etc. But these gacha tourists are doing the same thing, saying that I should just get out of gacha because I don't understand or appreciate it or something, which can't be further from the truth. They're coming to these unfamiliar lands, planting their flag in the soil and saying that they own the land now and that my opinion is irrelevant because I'm old and my time is up and I don't know what good gacha is anymore. And all the while they say all of this, they have zero respect for the history of the medium. They don't respect how the evolution has happened. They just look at it as something cool and sexy, something to feed their personal insecurities and sexual frustrations. To them, gacha games are just about waifus and gooning. And yes, waifus and gooning are a part of gacha. I'm not saying that they're not, but that's not what gacha is. Those things don't define gacha as a whole. They're just a small part of it. And if you say that, they'll just come out and call you a tourist, because of course they would, because anyone that says anything that it doesn't align in their opinion of what gacha is obviously a tourist in their eyes. But the thing is though, in saying all of this, with the huge influx of new gacha players since COVID, and it's precisely because of these people that gacha is where it is today, both good and bad. It's because there are so many people that got into gacha that we now have games like Wuthering Waves, and soon to have others like Duet Night Abyss, NTE, Ananta, Arknights Enfield, Silver Palace, etc. The quality for these games has skyrocketed in just a few short years, much faster than anything I've seen anywhere else. And it's precisely because of the normies, the tourists, and the whales that we get to play these games in the first place. If they weren't there, we would probably be stuck in the early 2010s quality of things. Yes, I am looking at you, FGO. In fact, one of the reasons I started this channel in the first place was because I was seeing a lot of talk in the community about what Japan thinks about certain things, and I wanted to set the record straight based on my 15 years of being in the country, in the community, and in the culture, and that includes stuff like this too. I said earlier that these kinds of tourists think that their opinion is the most correct one, and that makes them tourists. And some might say, well, doesn't that make you a tourist? Because you obviously think that your opinion is the most correct, right? No, I'm not saying that my opinions are the be-all, end-all of anything. I know I have opinions that many don't agree with, and that's fine. I've said things in the past that I no longer agree with. Disagreeing with people is fine. Arguing for your position is fine. Changing your opinion is also fine too. If the biggest problem that we have with tourists is them telling us what we can and can't like, then doing the same to others, and even them, is just as wrong. Saying people don't belong in the community just because they don't agree with whatever you think defines gacha, that's tourist behavior. Putting people down and calling for the death of others because they like straight ships of characters you think are gay or lesbian, that's tourist behavior. Harassing other people because they prefer one character over another, that's tourist behavior. Let people like what they want to like, and let people not like what they don't like. That doesn't make them any less of a fan. As long as they understand that it is a part of the culture, even if they don't like it, I don't see what the problem is. I love Japan, I love living in Japan, and I love anime and gacha games too. But there are also things I don't like about Japan, things I don't like about anime, and even things I don't like about gacha games, but I understand that they are a part of it. Waifus, husbandos, gooning, idols, lollies, harem, shipping characters together because you think they look cute. Whether you like it or not, these are all things that are part of the gacha gaming culture. If I see someone who likes something that I don't, or if they don't like something that I do, I don't go out of my way to let them know about it and insult them for thinking differently. There's just no point in that. Just let people like and dislike whatever they want. They are free to do so. As long as they keep their opinions to themselves and don't force others to agree with them or start throwing hate, I don't see what the problem is. If you consider yourself a true fan of these gacha games, someone who isn't a gacha tourist, and you're saying all this stuff about how we need to get rid of all the gacha tourists and stuff like that, honestly, I don't see why you should care. So what if someone thinks that this ship is cute, even if it's not canon? So what if they're excited to pull for a certain character over another? So what if they prefer male characters over female ones, or Yuri ships over straight ones, or vice versa for any of these examples? All of these things have a long history, not only in gacha gaming, but in the otaku subculture as a whole for decades. Tourist behavior isn't about having these thoughts and opinions, but it's about forcing others to abide by them. You can be for any ship that you want, whether it's straight, gay, lesbian, canon, non-canon, whatever. But the tourist is the one who says that only their preferred ship is the correct one and that everyone else is wrong. You're more excited for character X over character Y? Only tourists would insult you for that. Because at the end of the day, they're all just opinions. We're all here to enjoy playing some games, so whether you want to believe that this game or that game is the best gacha game of all time, that's fine. You're free to feel that way. But people are also free to feel differently. As long as you don't force your opinions onto others, there won't be any issues. There might be things you love, there might be things you hate, and if you have opinions on some of them, you shouldn't be afraid to express them. It's fine not to be interested in games like Nikke or Brown Dust 2 or any of those, but don't go around saying that anyone who does enjoy them is an incel. That's not cool, and that is tourist behavior. Everyone started off as a gacha tourist at some point. It's just that gacha tourists back in the day were self-aware enough to take a little bit of time to actually explore the medium before expressing their opinions about it online. Now, people not doing that is how we get the myth that male characters don't sell, when historically that isn't the case at all, but that's a topic for another video. This is a bit of a side tangent, but I'm really concerned about where the community is right now, at least how it feels to me anyway. I would love it if we could all get back to a point where the waifu lovers and husbando wanters could just get along in the same space without insults like incel or f*** getting thrown around. There was a time when people would talk about the different ships that they liked, regardless of canon, and give reasons why they thought these two particular characters looked cute together. I want to get back to a time where the community would grow closer through our differing opinions, instead of tearing itself apart. I've spoken a lot about what I think tourist behavior is, and I think that word has taken on a different meaning for different people, but this is a message for the gacha newcomers. For the people new to the space, someone who's never played the games which made the genre what it is, like Monster Strike, Chain Chronicle, or FGO for example, for the ones who've only played Genshin and nothing else, the first thing I want to say is welcome. The second thing is, don't let other people tell you what gacha is or isn't. Go out and experience it for yourself. Try a variety of different gacha games, and if there's something you like, great, you found another new thing for you to enjoy. But if there's something that you don't like, then just leave it. But just realize that it is a part of the culture as well. The third thing I want to say is this, and this is the most important. Don't allow yourself to fall into the trap of telling others what gacha is or isn't either, because that is tourist behavior. There's a reason why I end all my videos by saying peace, because I genuinely mean that. I want everyone to get along and for us to calmly and peacefully talk about our difference of opinions. So when I say peace to everyone that watches the video, regardless of whether you agree or disagree. So with that being said, I will see you in the next video. Peace.
I love sushi.
I love Japan, period.
The tea ceremonies.
J-Rock!
Yeah.
Garuga Mesh!
Oh yeah.
I love anime!
Yeah. And manga!
And gaming!
DDR!
Smile DK!
Hey! Sakura-kan ikimasu!
Don't just talk about it. Check out Sakura-kan, April 10 through 12. Check sakura-kan.org for all the details.